A man never truly understands the value of a good woman until she is no longer within his reach. It is only when silence replaces her words, when absence fills the space where she once stood, that regret takes root in his soul. You see, life has an interesting way of teaching lessons. It does not shout, it whispers through time. A man may walk away from a woman who gave him her heart, thinking he can find better, but as the days turn into years, as the excitement of temporary pleasures fades, he begins to realize he did not lose just a woman. He lost his peace, his growth, his mirror, his home. A good woman does not beg to be kept. She does not chase to be loved. She simply steps back, knowing that the right man will never need to be convinced. And it is in that very moment, when she moves on, that a man finally understands the depth of his mistake. But by then, it is too late. A man may not always recognize it when he has it, but when it's gone, the realization strikes like thunder on a quiet night. She was the silent force behind his strength, the woman who stood by him through his storms, the one who believed in him when even he doubted himself, the one who picked up the shattered pieces of his confidence and molded them back together with nothing but love and patience. Have you ever seen a man who once had everything, success, charm, a sense of purpose, only to lose himself when he lost her? It's because a good woman is not just a companion, she becomes his emotional backbone. She is the force that holds him steady when life tries to shake him, the voice that whispers, "You can do this," when the world is screaming at him to give up. And yet many men only understand this when it's too late. Imagine a man struggling to build his career. He faces rejection, financial stress, and sleepless nights filled with doubt. The world sees a strong man trying to make it, but behind closed doors, it is she who wipes his forehead when he is exhausted. She who reminds him of his worth when he feels like a failure. She who tells him, even if the world doesn't see your value yet, I do. She is the reason he pushes forward, because deep down, he knows there is someone who believes in him unconditionally. But what happens when he takes her for granted? He gets used to her presence. He assumes she will always be there, always supporting, always understanding. He forgets that even the strongest women get tired of carrying the weight of another's burdens without appreciation. Then one day she stops trying, and that is when he realizes his strength was never his alone. A good woman absorbs a man's pain like a sponge, taking in his worries, his insecurities, his fears, without ever making him feel weak for having them. Think about this. How many times have you seen a man break down in public? Rarely. But in private, when he is with her, he can be vulnerable, because he knows she won't judge him, won't see him as any less of a man. Instead, she will remind him, your struggles do not define you, your response to them does. But when she walks away, when she removes herself from his life, suddenly he has no safe place to turn to. The world doesn't care about his emotions. The same society that told him to man up will never ask if he's okay. And that is when he begins to feel the weight of her absence. Picture a man facing failure, maybe his business collapses, maybe he loses his job. When she was in his life, he had a rock to lean on, a voice of reassurance telling him, this is just a chapter, not the whole story. But without her, silence fills a space where encouragement used to be. And that silence, it is deafening. At first, he may not acknowledge it. He may try to mask the loss with distractions, friends, work, even other women, but deep in the corners of his mind, in the quiet moments before he sleeps, he feels it. The emptiness, the missing piece. Because it wasn't just about love, it was about stability, about emotional grounding, about a partnership that no fleeting romance can replace. Look at the men who have lost a good woman and regret it deeply. They may seem fine on the outside, but if you sit with them long enough, you will hear it in their words, see it in their eyes, the nostalgia when they speak of her. the slight hesitation when someone asks about their past relationships. They will tell you she was different. And that difference, it was her strength, her ability to uplift, her role as his emotional backbone. When she was there, he felt unstoppable. She wasn't just a lover, she was his greatest motivator. She saw potential in him that even he couldn't see. So she pushed him beyond his comfort zone, challenged him to be better. And it is only after she's gone that he understands. Her love was never about changing him, it was about revealing him to himself. Think of a tree standing tall in a storm. The world admires its strength, but few realize that the real power lies beneath the surface, in the roots, in the foundation holding it upright. A good woman is those roots. She keeps a man grounded, unshaken by the winds of doubt and difficulty. But when those roots are cut, the tree may not fall immediately, but over time cracks begin to appear, and then one day, with a single push, it collapses. That is what happens when a man loses the woman who was his foundation. He may stand tall for a while, pretend he's unaffected, but eventually he will feel it, the void, the missing support, the absence of the one person who made him believe in himself when no one else did. And when that moment comes, when the weight of regret sets in, there is no turning back. Because a woman who was once his home, his sanctuary, his peace, has now become someone else's blessings. A man may have countless people around him, friends, family, colleagues, but there is something different about the way a good woman understands him. It's not just about listening to his words, it's about hearing the emotions behind them. It's about seeing the things he doesn't say, reading the silence between his sentences, and knowing exactly what he needs, even when he can't put it into words. She understands the weight he carries in his mind, the burdens he never speaks of, the battles he fights in secret. When the world only sees his confidence, his strength, his achievements, she sees the cracks beneath the surface, the struggles he tries to hide. And she never makes him feel weak for having them. A man can walk into a crowded room and still feel alone because no one else truly gets him the way she did. The world may applaud him when he's winning, but she was the one who stood by him when he was losing. Others may admire his success, but she was the one who believed in him before he even had any. She knew his fears, his dreams, his triggers, and his deepest insecurities. She knew what made him restless at night and what gave him peace. Imagine a man coming home after a long, exhausting day. His mind is cluttered, his energy drained, but he says nothing. To the world, he appears fine. But she knows. She watches the way his shoulders slump just a little, the way he rubs his forehead absent-mindedly, the way his responses become shorter. She doesn't need him to explain. She already understands. She doesn't ask 100 questions. She simply puts his favorite meal on the table, plays the song he loves, and sits beside him in silence. And in that silence, he feels understood. Without a single word, she reminds him, "You're not alone." But what happens when she's gone? Now he comes home to an empty space, a silence that doesn't comfort but suffocates. He goes out with friends, but no one notices the exhaustion in his eyes. He tells a joke and people laugh, but no one hears the sadness hidden beneath his voice. And that's when he realizes what he had was rare. He meets other women, but they don't see him the way she did. They hear his words, but they don't feel them. They listen to his stories, but they don't understand the emotions behind them. They know what he does for a living, but they don't know what truly drives him. And that's when he starts to miss her. Not just her presence, but the way she made him feel seen, heard, and understood. Think about a man who loves to dream big, who is full of ideas but also full of doubts. The world may laugh at his ambitions, tell him to be realistic, to settle for less, but she looks him in the eyes and says, "Why not you? If anyone can do it, it's you." She fuels his fire when he starts to doubt himself, and even when he doesn't believe in himself, she does so loudly, so confidently, that he starts to believe too. But when she's gone, when her voice is no longer there to remind him, of his greatness. Something inside him begins to change. The world's doubts become louder, his own fears become heavier, and he realizes she wasn't just a woman in his life. She was the voice that kept him moving forward. Picture a man who has been through struggles. Maybe he grew up without much, maybe he has been betrayed, maybe he carries wounds that no one knows about. The world sees him as strong, but only she sees the little boy inside him, still searching for safety. And because she understands his pain, she loves him in a way that makes him feel safe, makes him feel whole. When he fails, the world will say, "I told you so," but she will say, "This is just part of your story, keep going." When he succeeds, the world will say, "You got lucky." But she will say, "I always knew you would do it." When he loses himself, the world will say, "He changed." But she will say, "Come back to yourself. I know who you are." But when she is no longer in his life, who will remind him? Who will see beyond his smile and recognize his pain? Who will sit with him in his darkest moments, not to fix him, but just to be there? He might search for this connection again, hoping to find it in someone new, but understanding isn't something you can demand. It's something that is felt, something that is built with time, trust, and depth. And that's when the regret starts to settle in. Because he realizes not every woman will look at him and truly see him the way she did. He might think back to all the times she asked, "Are you okay?" Even when he swore he was fine, how did she know? He might remember the way she could hear the change in his tone over the phone and immediately ask what happened. How was she so in tune with him? He might recall the times he pushed her away in frustration, but she stayed, knowing it wasn't her he was mad at. It was life, it was stress, it was pressure. And she never made him feel like he had to fight his battles alone, but now he is alone, not physically. There are still people around him, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually, he feels the void. Because it wasn't just love that she gave him, it was understanding. And he finally realizes that kind of connection is not something you can find twice. She wanted him to win, not just in the way the world defines winning, but in a way that made him feel truly fulfilled. She saw him not just as he was, but as he could be. She wasn't there just for the good days when everything was smooth. She was there in the trenches, pushing him when he was tired, believing in him when he doubted himself, reminding him that he was destined for more even when he felt like giving up. The world only applauds the final victory, the promotions, the achievements, the success. But she was cheering for him long before the world ever noticed him. She was there when he was just an ambitious man with nothing but a dream. She stood beside him when he had nothing to offer but his potential. When no one believed he could do it, she did. When he doubted himself, she was the steady voice saying, "You are meant for greatness. Keep going." Think about the late nights when he wanted to quit. Maybe he was working on something that seemed impossible, a business, a career, a dream he had chased for years. The setbacks felt endless, the obstacles too heavy. The people around him didn't understand why he was even trying. "Just settle," they said. "Be realistic." But she was different. She wasn't just another voice in the crowd, she was the one who whispered, "You are not meant for an ordinary life. You are bigger than your struggles." She didn't just watch from the sidelines, she invested in his success. She encouraged him, supported him, and sacrificed alongside him. When he was exhausted, she reminded him of his why. When he lost his confidence, she spoke to him like a king. She would say, "Look at you, look at everything you've overcome. You are not going to break now." There were days he felt like a failure, days when he came home feeling defeated. But she didn't allow him to stay in that space. She reminded him of his power, his potential, his purpose. She wouldn't let him shrink himself just because things got tough. She would lift his chin, look him in the eyes and say, "You didn't come this far just to stop here." And it wasn't just words, it was action. She pushed him to chase better opportunities, to expand his mind, to never settle for less than he deserved. If he wanted to quit, she held him accountable. If he doubted himself, She reminded him who he was. Imagine a man trying to build something, maybe his own business, maybe a career, maybe just a better life. The journey is lonely. The world only sees his progress. They don't see the moments of doubt, the silent struggles, the times when he almost gave up. But she did. She saw everything, and instead of letting him sink into discouragement, she was the fire behind him, saying, I see something in you that you don't even see in yourself yet. But what happens when she is gone? Now when he feels tired, there is no one reminding him why he started. When he doubts himself, there is no steady voice telling him you are capable. When the world tells him to quit, there is no one standing behind him saying you were made for more. He starts to feel the difference. He starts to feel the absence of that kind of belief. He might be surrounded by people who only celebrate his success, but she celebrated his effort. She was proud of him even when he wasn't winning. She admired his drive, his passion, his fight, even when the results weren't showing yet. She didn't just love the man who succeeded, she loved the man who was still becoming. And when that kind of love leaves, when that kind of support is gone, the world feels different. He might find women who admire his success, but they weren't there when he was building it. They don't know about the nights he doubted himself, the struggles he had to push through, the moments he almost quit. They see the man he is now, but they don't know the man he used to be. The man she stood beside when no one else did. He might try to replace her, thinking any woman can support him the same way. But then he realizes not everyone wants to see you win. Some just want the benefits of your success without ever having to push you through the struggle. That's when the regret sets in. He starts to remember the sacrifices she made, not for herself but for him, how she adjusted her life just to make sure he had the time, the energy, the focus to chase his dreams. How she put aside her own comfort to make sure he was mentally, emotionally, and even physically prepared to win. He starts to realize that while others clapped for him after he won, she was the one who held his hand through the losses. She was the one who believed in him before he even had proof that he could succeed. And now she is gone. Now he has the success, the status, the recognition, but something feels empty. Because a man can have everything, money, power, influence. But if he doesn't have someone who truly wants to see him win, none of it feels the same. He starts to miss the way she looked at him, not because of what he had, but because of who he was. He misses the way she pushed him, challenged him, motivated him, not to change him, but to bring out the best in him. And then the biggest realization of all hits him. He didn't just lose a woman, he lost the one person who wanted to see him win, more than even he wanted it for himself. Her absence makes him face himself in ways he never expected. When she was there, she was a mirror, one that reflected not only his strengths, but also his flaws. She held up that mirror with love, never to shame him, but to show him where he could be better, where he could grow. But now that she is gone, there is no one left to hold that mirror. He is forced to look at himself without the gentle guidance of her presence, without the soft reminders of the person he promised he would become. At first, he doesn't feel the weight of her absence. Life moves on, distractions keep him occupied. Maybe he convinces himself that he is fine, that nothing has changed. He goes about his days the way he always has, burying himself in work, in friends, in empty conversations that lack depth. But then the quiet moments come. The nights when the world slows down, when the noise fades, and he is left alone with his thoughts. That is when the truth begins to settle in. Without her, there is no one reminding him of the man he aspired to be. She used to push him, challenge him, call him out when he was slipping into mediocrity. She saw the fire in him when he was too tired to see it himself. She didn't let him take the easy way out. She made him hold himself to a higher standard. Now, without her voice in his life, he starts to realize just how much of his growth was because of her belief in him. He starts to notice the little things, the way she used to remind him to take care of himself, not just physically but emotionally. The way she could tell when something was wrong even before he said a word. The way she made him feel understood in a world where no one else truly saw him. Now he faces himself alone. The flaws he once ignored are now inescapable. The habits she tried to help him break resurface, and there is no one to stop him. He thought he was strong on his own, but now he understands that strength isn't just about standing tall. It's about having someone who helps you stand when you are about to fall. He remembers the times she challenged him, the times she wouldn't let him make excuses, wouldn't let him settle for being less than what he was capable of. She made him uncomfortable sometimes, but only because she knew he could do better. And he hated it then. He didn't always like being called out. He thought she was being too much, expecting too much. But now he would give anything to hear her say, "You are better than this. Stop playing small." He starts to feel the emptiness of meaningless conversations, the surface level interactions, the people who only care about his success but not about his soul. She was different. She saw him, not just the image he showed the world. She loved him not just for what he could offer, but for the man he was trying to become. And now he realizes how rare that kind of love truly is. There was a time when she believed in him more than he believed in himself. She saw his potential when he only saw his failures. And instead of letting him drown in self-doubt, she lifted him up. Now, when doubt creeps in, he has no one to remind him of his strength. He has to do it alone. And that is when the regret begins to set in. He starts questioning himself. Why did he take her for granted? Why did he not listen when she tried to help him grow? Why did he push away the one person who truly wanted the best for him? Maybe he thought she would always be there. Maybe he assumed that no matter how many times he dismissed her concerns, no matter how much he resisted change, she would keep fighting for him. But now she is gone. And for the first time, he is forced to sit with the weight of that reality. He sees himself clearly now, the way he let his ego get in the way he ignored the things she tried to tell him, the way he resisted growth because it was easier to stay comfortable. He remembers how she used to tell him, "I don't push you because I want to change you. I push you because I see something great in you." And now, without her, he wonders if he will ever find someone who will see him that way again. There is no more safety net, no more late-night conversations where she helps him make sense of his emotions, no more reminders that he is capable of achieving more than he thinks. He has to navigate it all alone, and it is not as easy as he thought it would be. Her absence makes him realize that real love isn't just about romance or attraction, it's about growth. It's about having someone who holds you accountable, who wants you to evolve, who refuses to let you stay the same when they know you are meant for more. And as he stares at himself in the mirror, he finally understands. He wasn't just loved by her, he was guided by her. And now, without her, he must learn how to guide himself. She had rare loyalty and depth, something he didn't truly appreciate until it was gone. In a world where people are quick to walk away, where commitment is fleeting and love is often conditional, she was different. She stood by him through the highs and the lows, through the days he was shining and the days he could barely get out of bed. She was the kind of woman who did not love halfway. When she gave her heart, she gave all of it. And now he realizes just how rare that kind of devotion is. Loyalty is not just about staying, it is about standing firm when everything else is falling apart. She stood firm for him, even when he doubted himself. She defended him when others questioned him. She protected his name in rooms he wasn't even in. When the world turned against him, she was the one voice that never wavered. She wasn't just loyal in words, she was loyal in action, in presence, in the way she never made him feel alone. And now he looks around and all he sees are people who come and go, who are only there when it benefits them, the ones who only stay as long as things are easy. He starts to see the difference between people who like him for what he has and the woman who loved him for who he was. There were nights when he was lost, when everything seemed uncertain, and she was there, holding space for him, letting him be vulnerable without judgment. She never made him feel weak for struggling, never shamed him for his fears. She listened, really listened when he spoke about his dreams, his doubts, his childhood wounds. She understood the battles he fought inside, even the ones he never put into words. He didn't realize how rare that was. He thought love was just about passion, attraction, the things you see on the surface. But depth, real depth, goes beyond that. It's in the way someone remembers the little things, in the way they see past your walls, in the way they stay even when the world gives them every reason to leave. She stayed. She stayed through the phases when he wasn't his best self, through the times he was distant, confused, or too caught up in his own world to notice hers. So she stayed when he was difficult to love, when he pushed her away, when his own insecurities made him blind to the treasure in front of him. And yet he let her go. At first he didn't think much of it. People leave all the time, right? He thought he could replace her. He thought he would find another woman who would give him the same kind of love, the same depth, the same unshakable loyalty. But that's when reality hit him. Not every woman loves like that. Not every woman is willing to build with you, fight for you, protect your name, and stay through the storms. Not every woman has the patience to understand your silence, to read between the lines when you struggle to express yourself, to stand beside you when you are at your lowest and remind you that you are still worth loving. He sees it now, the difference between temporary and timeless, the difference between someone who is only there for the good times and someone who refuses to leave when things get tough. She was timeless. She had a heart that didn't waver, a mind that didn't second-guess its devotion, and a soul that loved deeply, fearlessly, and without limits. She wasn't perfect, but her love was real. And now, in her absence, he sees the truth. The world is full of people who know how to take, but few who truly know how to give. Many know how to love when it's convenient, but few know how to love when it's tested. She was one of the few. And now, as he moves through life, meeting people who don't have her depth, who don't have her loyalty, who don't know how to stand firm the way she did, he feels the weight of his loss. He realizes that he didn't just lose a woman, he lost something irreplaceable. Because a woman like her doesn't come around twice. Regret replaces his pride, creeping in slowly at first, like a whisper in the back of his mind that he tries to ignore. But with every passing day, it grows louder, heavier, more undeniable. At first, he walks away with his head held high, convinced he made the right decision. He tells himself he will be fine, that life moves on, that there will always be someone else. His pride convinces him that he didn't lose anything, she did, that he was the one in control, the one who had the upper hand. But pride is a fragile thing. It blinds a man in the moment. But when the dust settles, it leaves him standing alone in the ruins of his own choices. And that's when regret takes its place. He starts noticing the small things first. How his phone doesn't light up with messages that genuinely check in on him anymore. How no one asks if he's eaten, if he's doing okay, if he's still chasing his dreams. He scrolls through his contacts and realizes that the one person who truly cared isn't there anymore. Then it hits him deeper. He goes through his day surrounded by people, but it doesn't feel the same. He laughs, but it's hollow. He dates, but it's empty. Because now he understands attention is easy to find, but real connection is rare. Anyone can call him handsome, anyone can flirt, anyone can pretend to care, but not everyone will stand in his storm, not everyone will fight for him, not everyone will see the parts of him that he hides from the world and still choose to stay. He remembers the moments when she was right there, giving him the love he didn't know how to appreciate, the way she listened, really listened, not just to his words, but to the things he didn't say. The way she believed in him when he doubted himself. The way she stood beside him, not just when things were easy, but when life was messy, uncertain, and hard. And then he remembers the moments when his pride pushed her away. The times she tried to talk and he brushed her off. The times she needed reassurance and he stayed silent. The times she gave him her loyalty and he took it for granted. And he wasted it. He let his ego convince him that she would always be there, that he could treat her as an option and she would still choose him, that no matter how much he neglected her, she would keep waiting, keep forgiving, keep loving. But regret is a cruel teacher. Because now, as he looks around, she's not there anymore. He scrolls through her social media, hoping to see a sign that she misses him, that she's hurting the way he is. But she's glowing, she's thriving, she's not begging for his attention, not waiting for him to realize her worth. She already knows it. And that realization cuts deeper than any breakup ever could. He replays the last conversation they had, the last time she looked at him with love in her eyes, and for the first time he sees it clearly. She didn't leave because she stopped loving him. She left because he made her feel like she was loving him alone. Now his pride feels meaningless. What good is a man's pride when it costs him something priceless? What victory is there in pushing away the one person who truly saw him? He won the argument, but lost the woman who had his back. He kept his ego intact, but at what cost? Regret is relentless. It doesn't just remind him of what he lost. It makes him relive it. Every time he sees a couple laughing together, every time he hears a song that reminds him of her, every time he lays in bed at night staring at the ceiling, wishing he could go back. And here's the thing about regret. It doesn't offer second chances. You don't get to rewind time, to take back the words you didn't say, to undo the ways you made her feel unseen. You don't get to wake up and have her standing at your door, waiting for you to finally understand. No, regret just sits there, whispering, reminding, making you wish you had learnt your lesson before she was gone, making you realize that pride is temporary, but losing a good woman, that's forever. She moves on, and she glows without him. Not instantly, not effortlessly, but with a quiet strength that builds day by day. At first there are the lonely nights, the echoes of memories she can't escape, the weight of a love she gave so fully but never received in return. She doesn't pretend it didn't hurt. It did, it broke her. But the thing about a strong woman is this, she does not stay broken. There was a time when she believed in him more than he believed in himself. She stood by him, held him up when he was weak, poured into him even when she was running on empty. She made excuses for his indifference, convinced herself that love was about patience. She thought that one day he would wake up and see her the way she saw him, as someone irreplaceable, as someone who deserved the same energy she was giving. But that day never came. Instead, she watched as he took her for granted, as he assumed she would always be there, as he let his ego blind him to what he had. And when she finally walked away, it wasn't out of spite, it wasn't to make him regret. It was because she finally realized she deserved more. She stops waiting for closure, stops searching for explanations. She no longer needs him to recognize her worth. She recognizes it herself. The moment she chooses herself over the love that drained her, everything shifts. The sadness begins to fade, replaced by something powerful, self-respect. She steps into a new version of herself, one that no longer begs, no longer settles, no longer gives energy to people who do not reciprocate. And oh, how she glows. At first, he doesn't notice. He assumes she is still the same, still hoping for him to come back, still waiting for a message that will never come. But one day, he stumbles across her picture, and something in his chest tightens. She looks different, not just beautiful, but radiant, like someone who has been freed from a weight she carried for too long. She smiles, but it's not for him anymore. It's for herself. He thought she would always be an option. He thought she would always answer, always care, always be there if he ever changed his mind, but she's not. She's no longer that woman. The girl who once waited by the phone, who once cried over his indifference, who once accepted the bare minimum, that girl is gone. And in her place, a woman who is thriving, who is untouchable, who does not need him to complete her. Regret hits him like a tidal wave. He scrolls through her photos, her stories, looking for clues. Is she thinking about him? Is she missing him? Is she hoping he'll reach out? But he sees nothing, not a trace of sadness, not a hint of longing. She is not looking back. She has built a new life, one where he does not exist. She is glowing now, not because she found someone new, but because she found herself. She invested in her happiness instead of begging for his love. She rediscovered the things that make her soul come alive, her passions, her dreams, her peace. She travels, she laughs, she surrounds herself with people who uplift her. She is no longer waiting for him to see her worth, she is living it. And that is what destroys him the most. Because now he finally understands. She was never just another girl, she was rare. The way she loved was rare. Her loyalty, her kindness, her patience, these were not things he could find in just anyone. She was the kind of woman you only get once in a lifetime, and he let her slip through his fingers. And now he watches from a distance, haunted by the reality that she does not need him, that she is happier without him, that she has become everything he once ignored, and he is no longer a part of her story. She moves on, she heals, she glows, and he lives with the regret of knowing that he lost a woman he will never deserve again. His future relationships lack depth. At first he doesn't realize it. He convinces himself that moving on is easy, that love is just a game of replacement. He jumps into something new, believing that the next woman will make him forget, that she will love him just as deeply, just as fiercely, without him having to work for it. At first, everything feels fresh and exciting. The late-night conversations, the butterflies of new attraction, the illusion that this time will be different. But something is missing, something he can't quite put his finger on. He remembers how she once looked at him, not just with desire, but with understanding. The way she could sense his moods before he even spoke. The way she listened, not just to respond, but to truly know him. She knew the weight he carried, the fears he never voiced, the dreams he had buried deep. She didn't just love him for what he showed the world, she loved the parts of him that he hid. But now, with someone new, the connection feels surface level. They talk, but they don't really talk. He laughs, but it doesn't feel the same. He tries to explain his thoughts, his emotions, but there is no depth in the response. No one asks him the hard questions anymore. No one challenges him, pushes him, believes in him the way she did. The new relationships are filled with temporary highs, but they lack the soul, the warmth, the intensity that once felt like home. He finds himself scrolling through his phone late at night, staring at her name, remembering the conversations that once flowed effortlessly. With her, he never had to force a connection. It was just there. With her, silence was never awkward, it was comforting because even in the quiet she understood. Now every moment feels staged. Every "I love you" feels rehearsed. He goes on dates, receives affection, yet something inside him feels hollow. He craves what he once had, but he doesn't know how to get it back. He remembers how she never loved him for what he could offer, but for who he was. She stood by him when he had nothing, when he was at his lowest, when he doubted himself. She didn't just admire his strengths, she embraced his weaknesses. But now he wonders, will anyone ever see him like that again? He searches for that depth in others, but he finds only temporary connections. Women who are there for the good times but disappear when life gets hard. He realizes that the loyalty, the devotion, the fire she had, it wasn't normal. It wasn't something he could just replace. And so he learns the hardest truth. Not every woman is capable of loving the way she did. Not every woman will stay when things get difficult. Not every woman will fight for him, push him to be better, stand by his side when the world feels heavy. He thought she was just another love. He thought she was replaceable. But now he understands she was once in a lifetime. He realizes too late she was his once-in-a-lifetime love. At first, he convinces himself that life moves on, that love is easy to replace, that another woman will walk into his life and make him forget. But time does not heal this kind of loss. It only sharpens the reality of what he let go. He starts noticing the little things, the empty spaces she once filled, the silence where her laughter used to echo. He remembered the way she used to text him good morning before he even opened his eyes, how she would check on him even when she was the one having a bad day. She wasn't just his lover, she was his safe place, his biggest supporter, his anchor when the world felt too heavy. He remembers how she never waited for him to ask for help, she just knew. She could read him in a way no one else could. When he was drowning in stress, she didn't just offer empty words of comfort. She found ways to ease his burdens, whether it was sending him food when she knew he was too busy to eat, reminding him of his own strength when he doubted himself, or simply believing in him when he didn't believe in himself. He once thought her love was ordinary because she made it look effortless. He took for granted the way she poured into him without expecting anything in return, the way she fought for him even on days when he didn't fight for himself. But now, in her absence, he sees the difference. Other women may be beautiful, kind, and even loving, but they don't see him the way she did. They don't memorize the details of his soul, don't push him to be a better man, don't love him with the same fierce loyalty she carried so naturally. He thought moving on would be easy, that he could replace the connection, that another relationship would fill the emptiness. But no matter how many hands he holds, how many lips he kisses, he keeps searching for her in the faces of strangers. He goes back and reads the old messages, the ones he ignored because he thought she would always be there. He replays the arguments in his mind, realizing now that she wasn't trying to control him, she was trying to grow with him. She wasn't trying to start fights. She was trying to build a future where they could both be happy. And then the truth hits him like a storm. She was not just a chapter in his life. She was the book, the kind of love people spend their whole lives searching for. And he had it, but he let it slip through his fingers because he was too blind to see her worth. Now she is gone, and she is not just gone. She has moved on. She's glowing in a way he never saw before because he never allowed her to shine when she was with him. She is smiling with a lightness that no longer carries the weight of waiting for him to realize what he had. And here he is, drowning in a regret so deep it leaves him breathless, because love like hers does not come twice in a lifetime. And he realizes now he was the lucky one. He had the kind of woman men pray for. But he lost her, and there is no going back. And so as the weight of regret crushes his chest, he comes to a bitter realization. Some mistakes cannot be undone. Some doors once closed do not reopen. Life is cruel in this way. It does not wait for you to understand the value of what you had. It simply moves forward, leaving you to drown in the emptiness of your own choices. He looks at her now, thriving, radiant, untouchable. She is no longer the woman who waited for his love to match hers. She is no longer the woman who begged for his attention, who tried to make him see the depth of what they had. No, she is a woman reborn. A woman who walked through the fire of heartbreak and came out untamed, unshaken, and unstoppable. This is the truth he cannot escape. She was his once-in-a-lifetime love, the kind of love that doesn't just offer passion, but purpose. The kind of love that doesn't just exist in the moment, but leaves an imprint on your soul. And now it is too late. He sees her living her best life, no longer carrying the weight of his indecision. She is laughing in ways she never did with him, glowing in a way he never allowed her to. She is proof that a woman who loves deeply can rise even higher when she is forced to love herself instead. And as the world watches her soar, he is left standing in the ruins of what could have been. He can chase every temporary thrill, drown himself in distractions, but nothing, not one moment, not one kiss, not one night, will ever replace the way she made him feel. He had a queen, and he treated her like she was ordinary. Now she walks as royalty, but not beside him. Regret is a slow poison, and it is eating him alive. Because he has now learned what the wise have always said. A good woman's love is not something you find twice. There are many people you will meet in life, but there is always that one love. The one that stands above all, the one that changes everything. And when you lose it, nothing else ever feels the same. So listen closely. If you are a man who still has the love of a rare woman, do not be blind. Do not let your ego, your distractions, your foolish pride cost you the very thing that could have made your life extraordinary. Because one day, if you take her for granted, you will wake up and find that she is gone. And the only thing more painful than losing her is knowing she will never come back. And if you are that woman, the one who gave your all, the one who loved with every fiber of your being, never regret what you gave. Because the loss is not yours, it is his. Keep walking forward, keep rising, keep glowing. Because nothing is more powerful than a woman who has learned that her love was never the problem. It was simply given to the wrong man.